Right. All right. Hello, everybody from the internet. Welcome to the September 2022 edition of the Houston Java User Group meeting. Really excited tonight. Scott Wickstrom is going to present to us about how to have a software developer workout and exercise to keep your development skills in peak form. So big thank you to our sponsors tonight, Improving for sponsoring the meeting space, for our door prize sponsors, JetBrains and Structure 101 and Hello Tomorrow and Webicator and Venkat Subramanian's Agile Learner and Webicator, if I hadn't mentioned them yet. And yeah, so I'll post the link in just a moment in the Teams chat. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And we have another meeting in October, two in fact, one on October 12th with Garrett Greenwald coming in telling us about technology called Crack from that I think Azul Systems has helped implement that helps with JVM speed up, start time speed up, and then also Bruno Souza is coming not this Friday but next Friday, and we'll be talking about how to open source your way to a better career. Him and who else was it, Scott?
Elio.
Elio. Okay, all right. Well, we'll find out more next Friday. So I'll get more details and post them out, and keep an eye out on that one. For that one, it should be very, very exciting. So without further ado, Scott, please take it away. Thank you. You'll need to talk kind of loud too, because those guys are noisy.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Well, you know, I came up with this when my daughter started going to the club to exercise, and she of course asked her father for advice, and as you can probably tell, I'm not one who goes to the club to work out very often. So, but I did some time ago, and it occurred to me that, you know, to improve our skills as developers, we should do some sort of a daily workout to improve our skills as well. So I started thinking about what would I do if I wanted to work out as a developer? Why do we work out in the first place? Where and how do you work out, and what specific exercises would I do for a software developer? So I thought, well, let's look at how someone goes to exercise and get in shape at the club. And so, you know, why do we work out at all? Why would we go? Why did my daughter want to go and start working out? Well, she wanted to improve her overall health. She wanted to increase her stamina, and basically, it just makes the rest of your life easier. You're stronger. You're able to do things. If you fall or something, you're more resilient. You're able to sleep better. When you're in shape, it's just an all-around better thing for your life. Well, you know, in software development, it's very similar. Why do I want to work out as a developer? I want to improve my overall skill set. I want to increase my confidence if I'm going on an interview, or if I'm trying to convince my other fellow developers for a better way to do things. And, you know, it of course makes the rest of life easier because I'm just able to get my work done more effectively and better. So there's a lot of similarities between the two. So when and how will I work out? Okay, well, if you're going to exercise your body, it's important to focus on your core, your shoulders, your back, your trunk. If you hurt your back, you can't lift weights. If you hurt your shoulders, you can't lift weights. You need to make sure that your trunk is solid and is strong. That is absolutely critical.
It's kind of jittery.
Okay, will do. Let me see how I do this. I need to go to. Pardon me just a second. Here's Microsoft Teams. camera. There. There, cool, yep. Excellent. So, yeah, so basically our trunk needs to be solid. And then your next essentials are your arms and your upper body strength that needs to be up there, because that's where we do most of our activity. We're lifting things, we're moving things, we're writing, we're typing, we're doing whatever we need to do. We're reaching for stuff, so our upper body needs to be strong. And finally, we need to get our legs strong. And sadly, that's the part that's first neglected if we get busy. You've seen the bar body guy whose biceps are bigger than his thighs, because, you know, he's focused strictly on his upper arms so he can look good at the bar. But he's got these chicken legs that he's walking around on. You don't want to be that guy, right? You want to be fully rounded. You want to make sure that you're balancing all your exercises and your workouts. So where and how do we work out with software? Well, the more important thing, of course, is your core. What do you spend most of your time doing every day at work? Reading. You're reading to figure out what needs to change, or reading to figure out how does this work, or reading. You are reading all day long. You're probably, you know, if you're searching for a bug, you're not doing any programming. You're reading code all day trying to track down some silly bug. So that is really the skill that you need to have mastered the most. And it's probably the skill where exercise leads. Then the next essential skill you have to have is the ability to refactor. You need to know, you know, what is clean code? How do I improve this code? Is this code that I'm looking at actually good? Is it solid? Is it, do I use DDD or MVC or a hexagonal design? I mean, how am I going to make this better? There's so many ways we can do that. And then finally, I left legs in there. Sorry, it's testing is also absolutely key. We have to have tests in place. And again, that's the first thing that gets neglected when a deadline comes up. It's like, well, we'll let the users test it. They'll find the bugs.
Test in production,
Yes.
I would say.
Right. I don't always test my code, but when I do, it's in production.
You're going to test.
Yes, there you go.
So what are some specific exercises we might do? So we're building our core. So what we would want to do is develop some reading skills. We can, the easiest way to do this is to read open source. What about the code that I work on all day long? Well, let's think about this. Work is not practice. When a musician goes up and performs, he's not practicing. A musician practices all day long so that he's ready for that performance. You know, an actor will practice the lines and practice where he needs to stand and where he needs to look and all that sort of thing. He's doing that all before he's on stage performing. And so in the same way, our practice can't be at work. We are performing when we're at work. We are focused on getting the job done. We need to spend some extra time exercising and developing our skills outside of work. So read some open source code. You can find examples of good code in open source, and you can find examples of really ugly code in open source. There's actually many more examples of ugly code in open source than there are good, but either way, you can see how other people do things. And even when you're reading bad code in open source, you can see, you know, the guy didn't intend for it to be bad. I'm sorry for being sexist. The original developer did not intend for it to be bad. This sort of thing happens organically, and you know, you make a few decisions that get you running down one road, and then you realize, oh, I should have taken this other road, and I can't go and rewrite everything, so I'll just kind of glom on this piece that'll get me going back in the direction that I need to go. That's just what happens. If you work in an industry, you don't have time to go and rewrite things. So open source is much the same. I'm not getting paid to do this, and I just need to get it working. So, so anyhow, so we're gonna go through an exercise of reading some code. The next thing we need to do, the next important skill, we're doing some curls. We're gonna recognize our code smells. What does a code smell look like? What refactorings would I consider to correct this particular code smell so that it'll go in the right direction? Then we'll do our presses. We're going to start our refactoring skills. So we need to know what our refactoring patterns are. You know, we need to know how our tools work. What are the refactoring, what are the tools built into our IDE that do the automated refactorings for us so that we don't have to go through the whole process and make mistakes along the way. And finally, we need to know what proper design principles are. We need to know what DDD is. We need to know what hexagonal design is. We need to know what solid design principles are and all of our design patterns and all this sort of thing. We need to know these various approaches so that we can know what to go to when we're refactoring something. Because if you're just changing the code and you don't have a clear destination in mind, then you're just sort of shuffling things around. It's not necessarily making it better. And finally, the key we all fall back on is testing. That's what makes what we develop really come together. Because if we're not writing testable code, then it's just gonna break again. You're gonna change it from one kind of ball of mud into another kind of ball of mud, and you're gonna start having Franken code all over the place that it was what you're trying to avoid doing in the first place. So you need to code with testing in mind. Ideally, you'll know how to, and you'll practice TDD with your development. But since most of the code that we tend to work with every day is untestable, you want to be able to add tests to untestable code somehow. And in order to do that, you have to know how to write tests for new code, at least, so that you can know how to write tests for code that already exists, appropriate tests that will get you the coverage that you need so that you're confident to go in and do the refactoring. Okay, so this is a quote that kind of guides my development experience. Kent Beck said, "I'm not a great programmer. I'm just a good programmer with great habits." So we need to develop great habits. The way we develop great habits is by focusing on developing these skills. And just like there's 100,000 ways that you can figure out how to develop your upper body strength, there's 100,000 ways that you can figure out how to do refactoring. There's a bazillion ways to do testing. There's a bazillion ways to do your leg lifts, okay? There's lots of different ways that we can exercise. I'm going to go over a few specific ways that we might develop some of these skills. So, we're going to look at our code reading skills. I said we need to read open source. I'll go and get an example here. And I need to go back and share my screen again. It will be this one. And so here's an example of some really high quality code. And
She's not quite showing it.
not showing it? No, it is not. Okay, well then we'll go back to. Well, I have to click the share button.
That
Isn't
would
that
help.
better?
Yes, I see the share button. Yep, that's
Okay.
your screen. You know, okay, yeah.
Is this code readable?
Yes, I can read it. Yeah, if you want to.
See it.
It's not on the screen, okay.
It's on the recording,
Yeah.
but you may need to exit your presentation. Then share. Oh, Jared said he could see it. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we're trying to get it both in the room and on the slide, so
is this,
it's on Teams. Yeah.
okay,
Okay, it's on meeting.
okay. So I know I've got a lot of red here because I couldn't get it to compile right, but I just opened this open source project. This is-
I'll take it, I'll take blame for that. I wrote it and right now it only compiles with JDK 8. That's a known bug and I need to fix it so it can compile with newer versions of the JDK. So that's, blame me, okay? If you're watching this recording, blame me, please.
That's okay.
It's my fault. It's
not
a
a
known bug and I'll get to it at some point in the near future. So,
That's okay. Well, the point is that, when you have, when you're bringing code in to read, you don't necessarily have to bring it into your IDE. The IDE helps you to read things. You can have things that are colored, like the strings show up as green, the commented out stuff is gray. So that makes it easier to read, but also, if you get it to compile, that's a bonus. You can see how it works. But really, our focus is on reading the code. And so what you want to do is just bring a piece of code into your IDE or just bring it into a plain old text editor and look at it. And you can just sort of step through it and see how it works. You look at the, there's wanted to introduce you to a book by Alina Hermanis. It's called The Programmer's Brain. And I guess when I get
I can
the-
include all these in the recording notes if you want.
Yeah.
If you want to send that book list to me.
Sure. But and she talks about how our brains work in learning new things and one of the, basically what we need to do is break it down into smaller chunks. And so what we do is, you can look at it a line at a time. One thing to do is to start looking at the local variables of this function. You want to figure out what this function does. First, let's see what it's called. Test the cost benefits calculation. All right. So this is a test. This is a good thing. Jim writes really good tests.
Well, thank you. So
you've got this attribute handler. And so we can look at all the places where that variable is used. And so, okay, so this is our attribute handler and it's a Java file. So we read that in as a stream, as a resource, and then we go and convert it to a string and we write this file. Okay, so we're going to be writing a file out. We've got a file pattern with a period. We've got to send a message here. I'm not looking at these in depth. I'm just sort of scanning it. And finally down here, we write the file, attribute handler, the convert input stream. So this resource is a stream two. Right here is where we do this attribute handler two. So basically it looks like we're going to convert this attribute handler into this other attribute handler too. We've got this first commit. So let's take a look at that. So we can see where that's used. That's not used. But we do have our git commit message here. So that's fine. We've got a resource as a stream 3 here. So it looks like he's checking a couple of different files to make sure they have the right values or the values that he expects. We have another file pattern, get the message here, cost benefit calculator. So this is all set up, all the setup that he has to do in order to run his test. So he Has this cost benefit calculator. He calls the function that cost benefit values. And then he passes in the parameter, the path, which contains the data files he set up, and he goes and makes sure that everything returns the value he expects, the disharmonies. That sounds like something that would be interesting to figure out what that means. So, so that's the test. We've got the cost benefit calculator code here. So here's the calculate cost and benefit values. So we can see we've got a repository log reader. So this is just the log stuff. So making sure everything is logged very well. That seems to be the output for the application. The repository log read. So we're looking at the Git repository. I see. So that's what this log reader is. It reads a Git log. We don't read it, then we print out an error message. The God class. Okay, this is, I've heard him talk about the God classes. So basically he's looking for any God classes in the repository. And so it generates a list here. Get God classes. That's pretty clear. God, you write good code. And then get ranked change proneness. So that tells us how prone some code is to being changed. So we've got a list of these are the things that are most likely to be changed. Ranked log info by path. So this is just the log info, the information about the log. We collect that and stick that into a ranked listing as well. Then another disharmony. So we've got our ranked disharmony. I'm assuming that a disharmony is an issue or a problem or something that we probably should change. So, I honestly did not look at this code before I came in here. I just brought it up because it was the first thing I clicked on. And so said, okay, bring up the test. Okay, what's it testing? Right here. And so we didn't spend 5 minutes looking at this, partly because I'm in a hurry to make sure I get all this stuff in. But also I wanted to show you that you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. We can dive deeper into it and figure out more of how this works, but we have a pretty clear indication of how it works. We would probably want to start digging deeper into some of these other objects and see how they're defined and what they do, so that we have a better understanding of how this code works. But this is a great way to start, to start looking at code and figuring out how it works. Now, my favorite code for ugly code is this. It's called Slide. It's a, let me get the GitHub project for it here.
Is this a refactoring kata?
Slide is not a refactoring kata.
Okay.
This is an open source project that it's a Java Reddit API. Basically, it's a Reddit tool that runs on your Android device. And there's been a handful of people working on it. Okay, 87 contributors.
Wow.
But it's
Impressive.
almost exclusively one person. This is an older project. And the code I like to look at is this one is called main activity.
Wow.
It's only 5,353 lines long.
I bet it's a God class.
I think that we would call this the God class. But I mean, you can see as we scroll through that one of their favorite design patterns here is the copy paste. And there's so much duplicated code here.
Ooh.
And you would just love to be able to go in there and clean it up. But I mean, even with that, you can look at it and say, so how did we get this way? All right. So we're getting the current page, we're opening the public. Well, let's see here. Here's some of the.
This is painful just to scroll through.
Just to scroll through. Oh yeah, I hear you. But yeah, this is what I like. It zigzag. You see, it's got that same zigzag all three times in a row.
Yeah.
So we can look at this and say, okay, so how did this zigzag get here? So this is doing a check set on checked change listener. Oh, macro, look at all the parameters that it takes. So he's got to create a new class, an on-checked change listener, compound button on-check change listener. Inside that, he's got to go and implement. So he's basically got an interface that's implementing an interface. And then inside that, he's implementing an interface. Then he's got to see, well, if it's checked, because this is a checked changed button. So if it's checked, then he's got to go and check to see all the different cases it could be. And then alert dialog wrapper builder. So he's got to go and build up this. Well, again, you've got an interface that's got to be the one-click listener. So he's got to go and implement that. So he did it once and he got it working. He said, good. I'm not gonna mess with it because it was working. Oh no, I need to do something slightly different. Now I need to do this for the find view by ID. All right, well, so I've got my on-click listener here. I'll just copy it and paste it in there and do it again. He got it working and he only had to tweak a couple of things in here. Now for this, what I would recommend is, I did not, here we go. So you go win merge. What I would probably do is go and grab one bit of this code here. Where we go here? Right here. So here, and we will paste that in here. Oops, no, I'm sorry. Go into your diff tool and paste that in there. Then we go to the next one. Say, all right, this one here. So back here. There, go to the end. That on the other side of your diff tool. And let's see what changed. Oh. Okay, so you had to do this thing. There's a lot that's different. So he may have cut and pasted it, but he had to make a number of changes in there. Okay, well, so that's interesting to know. So we can now go spend some time and see, okay, what are the differences? And why is it different? What did he have to do differently? If you can see that this stuff that's scrolled way over is all pretty much the same. So these are some tools you can use to look at ugly code, and you can think about how did it get that way, and then you can use that as a cautionary tale for yourself and say, okay, this is a practice I don't want to get into. So let's get back to our presentation here. We're here. And so I will go ahead and share my screen again so you can see the presentation.
All right.
Come on. Not you. Where'd he go? Did I just get out of Teams?
No, you're still, oh, wait, you know what,
There. Oh, there it is. I see it. Sorry. Okay. Share the screen now. Presentation. Boom. Okay, so that is some reading, how we can test some reading skills. How are we for time?
Oh, we're doing great. Still got, 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
then I'll stop rushing.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, this is a picture of me a year or two ago. When I had dark hair. Right. In my dreams, then I woke up. Okay, so of course, we want to start doing our curls. We need to recognize code smells. So ideally, we would use the ultimate reference book, which is Martin Fowler's Refactoring. You want to use the one where he did it in Java because the new one's in JavaScript, and this is the Java user. We're going to focus on Java. Okay. There is an excellent book that goes with it, which is this William Wake's refactoring workbook.
Nice.
And he basically sets up exercises that you can work through in conjunction with the refactoring textbook. And so basically, Martin Fowler's book shows you what the refactorings are, what the code smells are, and how to map the code smells you see onto the refactorings you should do. And then William Wake sort of applies, okay, here is a code smell in some code, and here is a refactoring you can do. And so let's walk through what that looks like. And it's really very helpful, so you can learn and sort of get that into your brain. So let's look at an example of that. Back to here and share my other screen so we can look at the code. So what I do for that, there is a kata. It's called the expense report kata. Let me bring that up for you. Expense report, there we go. So it's right, Christian Huser has this expense report kata, and it is written for an obscene number of languages. You know, if you want to run it on your Amiga, I think, yeah, Amiga Basic, you can practice with this code.
Wow.
So, but basically, what he did is he set it up so you can read it, you can understand how it works, and then you start looking for code smells. You know, he basically walks you through how you should use this as a kata. So we can do that real quickly here. He's written a cucumber test. Okay, I couldn't get this to compile here. I'm just not worth shooting today. But you can look at this is, you know, the main code here, the expense report code. It's not much, but you can quickly look through and see what code smells you can find in here. So for one thing, the whole program is in one class, and the whole class has one method. So this is, I guess it's small enough that it's not that huge of a deal, but that's a bad way to do things, because it's clearly doing a number of things in one method. So you're breaking the single responsibility principle. So here we've got this if statement. If expense type is dinner, or expense type is breakfast, or, well, you know, if you've got an if statement, generally that's calling out for creating some objects there. You've got some objects begging to come out. So here we've got this expense type, and then you've got an enum of the expense type. My guess is you should probably have an expense type interface, and then have 3 different expenses: dinner, breakfast, and car rental. Because my suspicion is that we're probably going to have a lunch, we're probably going to have a flight, we're probably going to have a hotel. You know, this is going to grow and grow and grow.
I mean, you could sleep in the rental car.
That's
right?
true. I won't argue that. But I mean, you can see that it's very simple. It just says what kind of expense it is, and then it gives it a name, and then it has some sort of a calculation based on what expense type it is. And, you know, if you need to make a change to this, then
Good luck to you.
good luck. Again, you're going to have to go and figure out in detail, what does this code do? And how is it going and figuring out what this expenses marker is? Rework that. Whereas if we could break this up into different objects, they're probably 3 trivial objects right now. And if we needed to add, like I said, a new expense type, it'd be trivial to do. Right now, it's hard to do. So, so this is a nice little exercise if you're wanting to practice learning code smells. Of course, you can also go back to my favorite slide. And this is an absolute cornucopia of code smells. And it's important to not just find the code smells, but say, okay, so what would I do? So we've got all this duplicated code. If you have a bunch of duplicated code, that screams out for, should it be a a function that we call? As big as this is, should this be a collection of functions that we call? Maybe it's an object that does something. Maybe it's a factory because he seems to be creating, it's called implementing all these interfaces on the fly. So, perhaps he could have factories for each of these to make it easier to read, easier to follow, easier to maintain, because this product has not been updated in a long time, and I was looking at comments on the slide application in the Android, whatever the store, and yeah, people are not kind.
Oh,
It's evidently pretty buggy. So, but I mean, it's been around forever. It was like the first tool out there that you could use for looking at Reddit. So again, we're looking for exercises that we can use to improve our skills. So if we're going to.
So Jared asked, is the whole app one activity? Jared's wondering if the whole app is one activity, basically. Does it do one thing? Does it all just do one thing?
Oh, this expense report thing? Yeah, it does one thing.
The Reddit app.
Oh, yeah, this slide thing? Yeah, it's a front end to Reddit. So it makes it makes it easy to read Reddit on your Android phone or your Android device without having to go to the Reddit website, because the Reddit website evidently has a very difficult user interface. I'm sure it adds other features that you can bookmark and get to different places and go to your favorites, but yeah.
So is the whole app in one class? Is the next
Oh,
question?
no, I'm sorry. No, it is massive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But it's an app that makes it's more user friendly, but it's programmer unfriendly.
So
Yeah.
We've got Tumblr support, we got sync it, you got swipe layout, notifications, Inger.
Oh, no, this is probably
Yeah, this,
Dell.
there's all your adapters.
Wow. That's,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
wow. Goodness, holy cow.
Hey, he's been working on this for 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So it's, and he does have tests. See, there's Android tests. Application test right there.
Oh.
There's a test. I don't mean to make fun of him. I'm sure he's worked hard on it and,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing, but again, if you're looking for code smells, this is a great way to do that. I pick on this main activity class because it's so hugely massive. You can see here, this is green because I tried to go in there and refactor it at some point and did make some changes to it just because I was playing with it. One trick that I will recommend if you are trying to understand code like this, you can very easily go through and start refactoring. You don't have to, save the changes or submit them, but you can go through and say, okay, I wonder what this is supposed to do. This is on click. It's got this dialog interface into which button, and it's got this try catch. Well, so what if I go and I take this on click thing and I move that out into another method, and I call that the on click method, and I'll use my automated refactoring, Control Alt Can I do that? Nope. Should represent a set of statements. It doesn't. No? Stop that. Just miss, go away.
Wait.
Wait, so, I'll go to the end and then control alt and method. Should represent statements or an expression.
Pull out just the tribe,
Look at
pull out
that.
what's in between it. So,
That's defining a function.
see how within that function, pull
Yeah,
out what's in the inside the function, in the which, yeah. Starting with the try and ending on the third, the second
Yeah.
close curly brace
I
there. Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah, so try that. Let's try that.
Anonymous on single click and anonymous. Choose the destination class.
I
Oh,
did.
this has got 3 interior classes. I'm sorry, two internal classes that are anonymous. Because that's how deep we are. We're into 2 anonymous classes. So we would probably want to put this into the main.
See how many instances of that text block it finds. Let's go ahead and click on main activity. Let's see what it comes up with. Did it find anything else?
We'll call this,
Do one click.
okay.
Do one click. Just for grants.
Click. Yeah,
I mean, not terribly descriptive, but you know,
Yeah.
it's an on click.
yeah, the unclick doesn't do on click. Good. Well, it makes it easier to read because I don't care what it's doing inside. I just want to know, okay, it's handling the on click.
So it's like do on click for display ad for non-pro users. So you can call it that. Do on click for, because in the parent,
So I'll say Shift F6.
yeah,
Because that's how we refactor. And we know our keystrokes.
yes, key promoter X helps with that.
What did you say? I wasn't even paying attention.
Key promoter X helps you learn those shortcuts.
Key promoter X, yes. Now, you wanted me to rename this as do on click for what?
It's like, show ads for non-pro users.
Show ads for non-pro users.
Yeah,
Okay. There we go. I misspelled it. Man, don't you hate it when you do that? Shift.
I really hate it when that happens.
W. Got that. Here we go.
There we go.
When you've got the refactoring tools, it's just a minor inconvenience.
Yes.
When you know how to do the key sequences to do stuff, then it's even less of an inconvenience. So you can then, okay, so I've got a new alert dialog wrapper inside this on single click. So, so that's this whole. Hey, so I've got this alert dialog wrapper builder. Yeah. We set the negative button and then we show it. Okay, so this whole thing, we should put that into a separate place. But on single click view evidently requires this alert dialog. So we should probably stick this into a factory of some sort. What if I do this here? Find view by ID. Man,
Is there
you can see.
a good way to do this?
Yeah,
It's overriding on single click for the set on click listener
on single click. Let's see here.
on single click
No
listener.
usage is found in all places. That's pretty exciting.
Well, that's because it's an anonymous class that's a handler, basically, I think.
On single click is, I mean, I'm just wanting to see. You know,
Do like a control F, do a highlight and control F, yeah, and then see how many, copy and get in your buffer and then see how many on clicks there are.
oh. Hello.
How many different handlers are there?
single.
you don't need that. That's gonna be, I think you can control shift F. You just want, or that could work too. Yeah.
So
I was thinking about it in only that file, but
Over 104 matches. Oh, you just want it in this one file?
yeah, it's that one file. Yeah.
Okay. So that would be,
Control F, I think.
well, I've got Vim.
Oh, okay, you
So
got
I've
Vim
gotta
set
do-
up. Okay.
Gotta do it from up here.
Okay, you do like a forward slash? And for find, you got,
Yeah, I mean, I could just do a search. Star, a single click, so we can look over here and see all the places that are green.
okay, you go, yeah.
There, here. Bunch of times in here, one single click, one single click, one single click. Here, one single click. So, yeah, it's in there, looks like 15 times or so.
Jared had the idea, can you replace new dialogue interface on click listener with a lambda?
Dialogue. Replace that with a lambda. Oh, let's try that. So if I do a
Dialogue interface dot on click
Enter.
listener.
rollback changes, no. So, well, I do a refactor. And it doesn't give me the ability to replace with lambda.
Dialogue interface dot on click listener.
Oh, this one here, is there a different one I'm missing down here?
I don't know, you mentioned, on line 2242,
Yes. On click.
yeah, dialogue interface on click listener. Is there any way to like take and replace that with a lambda maybe?
That's here.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So you replace the guts of that with a lambda. So instead of doing on click listener, so you want to instead, replace that anonymous interclass definition with a lambda instead. So instead of saying comma new, you would, do so highlight all of that. And then, yeah, and then down, all the way to that, the curly right there, and then right click and then place with lambda maybe or something. Factor, yeah, and then,
Full member up.
you can,
Inline parameter.
do that.
Not seeing it. Let's try this here if I go here. Do an alt enter. Correct method, create new sketch file.
It looks like, so,
There's not an automated version.
yeah.
We'd have to go to it by here.
Darn.
But I mean, it would be fun to try.
Yeah, it would be fun to try, yeah. Yeah. At least where you going with that, Jared? That's a good idea.
So.
Got the right idea.
So that was the coach smells, noticing coach smells. So now, let me talk a little bit about, here, stop sharing. Here. Go. Now we want to look at our next step, which would be refactoring skills. Again, Martin Fowler's refactoring would be the source book we would use, but in addition to that, really want to look at Joshua Kirovsky's refactoring to patterns. He sort of has written the follow-up to Martin Fowler's book, where he shows you what refactorings you can do. You'll notice the code smells, and then he basically shows, he's got inside the front cover, he's got the list of refactorings but also the direction that you should take that refactoring. So what pattern should you be aiming towards building as you're doing the refactoring? And then he's got even a study sequence that you can go through so you can start working through it. So he's got your little workout book right here, buddy. That's better than having a personal trainer, I'll tell you that. So anyhow, so those are our two books I would strongly recommend. And then, of course, there's always wonderful katas. The Gilded Rose kata is probably one that we're all familiar with,
At least heard of it before.
or at least heard of it. And back here, I will show that. There. So Emily Bosch is a brilliant software development manager. She's got not quite as many languages as the other tool, but she's got every language that you could probably care about, that she's got this Gilded Rose kata created it. And it's got a definition of how to use it as well, which is really nice. Basically, she says, okay, first you want to go and clean up the code because you want to have the idea that you want to add a new feature. So if we go and look at the code for that, she's got this Gilded Rose test says, all right, this is the part you want to fix. So if you run this test, this is what you ultimately want to end up having this test pass. So you want fix me, and it currently says foo. So basically you want to add, a new item. And but she's also got a set of tests that go through and exercise the application so you can see what it currently does. And then, of course, the code itself is one big pile of goo that you kind of have to work through to figure out what it all means. You can see that we've got these text strings that are duplicated throughout, and everything's stuck in an array, which is so easy to use, especially in Java. And so we'll
Easy to write, hard to read.
yeah.
Well, if you want to put it in presentation mode, you hit Control backtick or Control tilde, and then
Control tilde.
yeah,
Okay.
and then oh wait, you know what? You got the different key binding. Sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, it won't work. Never mind.
Oh, that's right. View presentation mode.
I want to make sure that you get out of it quickly too. Here.
Yes, I learned about that. So there's presentation mode. Boom, so people can read it.
Yeah.
Right. And I learned when you get into presentation mode, the only way out is to roll your mouse to the top, and then you have to get out.
Or hotkeys.
You what?
Or hotkeys.
Well, I haven't defined any hotkeys.
Okay, got it.
I did this before I defined hotkeys. But anyhow, so you can see that this is, again, nasty code to read, and you can practice going through and refactoring it. First, we notice our code smells. So you see all these exercises kind of build on each other. You figure out how to read code effectively. You figure out how to notice code smells. Then you figure out how to do the refactoring. So, anyhow, so we'll go and get it out of presentation mode. And finally,
Yeah, the slide app code base probably wouldn't have all fit on one screen for the presentation
oh,
mode.
if you want to,
So yeah,
do you want to see that in presentation?
I don't know if we want to or not. Might be frightening.
Why not? Yeah,
No, it does not fit.
it goes and goes and goes.
Oh, it can't even hardly see anything on.
It's all, oh, I can go and slide over there.
Look at the flash, you look at it and go, oh, God.
Pretty much, yeah.
There it goes. I'm not even half, oh, it just barely half.
Yeah.
Holy cow, look at that. It's barely anything.
Wow,
on the screen.
Yeah, that's frightening. If you put it like Visual Studio Code though, I'm sure you'd look at like the bar on the right with the code outline and go, oh, I need to go there to edit that piece, it's.
There's a tool, there's a plugin for JetBrains that does that, and this is my only instance that doesn't have that.
It's a bit frightening though, when you start to recognize the code by the contours.
Right. Since you brought it up, let me introduce you to this amazing tool called Code Glance. You want to get Code Glance Pro. Yeah,
Does it cost anything?
no,
Okay.
no, it's just, there's Code Glance, which wasn't supported anymore, so this guy picked it up and did Code Glance 2, and then he stopped supporting it, and then Code Glance 3 took off from that, and then he just doesn't update it very often in Code Glance Pro. This guy's really on it all the time.
Okay,
So-
all right. 361,000 downloads too.
Yeah, oh, it's very popular. So while that restarts, we'll go back to my presentation. Yeah. Here. Here. And here. So, finally, we have our testing and TDD exercise. Of course, there are dozens and dozens of TDD books, but they all use Kent Beck's book as the foundation. He describes it really well and very succinctly, and he's a really gifted teacher. So I recommend you get the book. You probably have to get most of these books digitally now.
Yeah.
But us old guys like to dig through paper. So,
And have it autographed every once in a while.
right. Yeah, it's hard to autograph a digital book.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, some really helpful tools that I like to use are cyberdojo.org, where you can basically start working through a kata, and you can use TDD to do that. You can also do that. It's designed for you to do it with others, so you can practice your pair programming. I like to go to codewars.com. It's one of these competitive sites where you go and you solve a problem. They give you some description of some problem in various levels of complexity, like, add Roman numerals or something like that. And so you go and you solve it. And then once you solve it, you can go and look at how other people have solved it and say, oh, I could have done this in a much more clever way. So far, I've been really impressed. Every time I've thought I've come up with a clever solution, someone's come up with a much, much better solution than I have. So we can go, let me go show you those real quick. That is, this is the Cyber Dojo. This is really well done. It's totally free. You can, if you've got somebody who's already been working on something, you can go and type in the code for that, or frankly, just save the link to it, or you can create a new practice. They've got a number of different exercises that you can work through. 12 Days of Christmas, of course, our favorite FizzBuzz, and then the enhanced one, FizzBuzz Plus. The Game of Life. There's all kinds of things that you can work on. So let's go to FizzBuzz. Next, and then you can decide what language you want it in. And you can see that there's over a dozen C++ because there's different libraries and different testing harnesses that you can use. Java has 7 or 8 itself. So you got Java 18 using approval test, or JUnit, or any Java version using Cucumber, Cucumber plus Spring, JMock, JMockito, Power Mockito. So if you want to practice learning different testing tools, this is a great way to do that. Because you don't have to go in and get it all set up and configured. You know, you see that I clearly didn't have all the libraries installed for the code that I was trying to demonstrate here. You don't have to worry about that here. You just go and you put it in there and you start working with it.
So you click on one of them, what is it? What does it show there?
Okay, so just go simple. Java 18 JUnit. So this is what it would look like. This is what a test looks like. Okay, if you want to go to Cucumber, then here's what your Cucumber test looks like. Here's your JMock. So this uses mocks. This is what your tests would look like. So it's this is really it's designed to help you work through doing TDD. So I'll keep it simple with JUnit. And like I said, you can have an ensemble. So you've got a couple of people working together on the same project. And then everybody has the same URL that they go to. And just everybody gets this URL. And then they'll, for them to run it, you're all doing it solo here. But so we can practice separately using our own files, or we can practice together, all taking turns on the same one, or I'm just working on my own. So basically here, if I want somebody to look at what I'm working on, I can share that and pass that in. It's got the test. This will be there now forever. I can go and look at it. If I've got that URL, I can go and look at it once down the line. But I mean, it goes and defines what the problem is. Everything is called Hiker for whatever reason. But you've got your unit test, and the way you test it is you run tests. Goes and thinks for a second. And then it tells you your output. Okay, we expected 42, but it was really 54. So I need to go in and correct my code. 6 times 9 is indeed 54. I need it to be 42. 6 times 7 is 42. So if I test that, I have a red ball for a failed test. And a green ball for a passed test. And if I create code that doesn't compile, then I get a yellow ball. And it keeps a count of how many of each of these. So I can go and basically we can play refactoring golf and see who gets to the refactored solution using the fewest steps.
Nice.
So it's kind of fun. You're welcome to contribute to it, and it's like I said, it's a nice tool to use. And then of course there's Code Wars, so you can go and it goes and defines a problem, tells you how many points you'll get for it, and shows you where you are in the list. I have 297 points, and I'm well down in the ranks. I'm number one for the people that I used to work with, though. So anyway. But yeah, you just go in here and you say, okay, do I want to practice something specific? Do I just want to practice against somebody? You can now look for jobs, and so you can show people, look, here's things that I've done, and here's the leaderboards, and I'm 405,020. I'm 297. I'm clearly well down. You can chat with other people. There's discussions, so people can say, there's a bug in this particular issue, and can you help me with it? And then docs, so you can read about the different. So this is if I want to go and start working on one, I can say, okay, 6Q is fairly simple. I can decide what language I want to do it in. The nice thing about this is, since I like to use Vim, this editor has Vim key support. The one problem with the Cyber Dojo is you got Notepad.
Yeah.
But one benefit of having Notepad is you gotta know the language.
Yeah.
So this is a great way for you to make sure that you know how to write public static void main or how to call the various libraries, or you have to go and say
Great practice if you're pursuing a Java certification.
import, yeah. So we say import, whatever, you've got to say, okay, what is that called? You can't just do an alt enter and right click and tell it to automatically fix it. So let me see, I think I can look at my history collections. Now, here's those are ones that I didn't finish. And I guess not. Here we go. So these are my solutions. For binary trees by levels. So I can go in here, so that's completed. From there, I can then say, okay, I'm going to look at discuss. Now I can see how other people have solved it. My description, my test case. So this is just what I wrote.
I don't have that. You get down to the point where I
How
have
the solutions. You all. Okay, so now I can go and look and see, here's how other people did it. Well, shoot, I had a page and a half. This guy got it in half a page. And so this guy did it all in lambdas.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
streams. So that's pretty clever. So, yeah, and this is another great opportunity for code reading, refactoring, and code smells again. You can see, oh, this is what I didn't do well, and this is how other people did it better. You can also find other people who did it more poorly, and say, okay, this guy's got it all broken up into different classes and everything. It's very object oriented. That's pretty impressive. Look at this. That's pretty simple. So, and this is this looks like lambda abuse. Anyway,
Lambda abuse, I like it.
so
Abuse of the lambdas.
right. So these are some tools that I hope are helpful and that would be useful in helping to do your exercise. You know, the important thing is, let me go back here, not here. Back to my slides. So we want to, practice things. It's called directed practice.
Intentional practice?
Yeah, intentional practice. Basically, there's the idea of the 10,000 hours to become an expert. It's not just 10,000 hours of doing stuff, because you do that, you do stuff when you go to work. What you want to do is you want to practice stuff. You want to practice stuff with an intent. So what I've laid out here is sort of a building set of skills, and you kind of circle through the skills and develop them step by step. And the books that I recommended and the sites that I recommended give you a good place to start, so you can start growing in developing your skills. I've got my own little book for how to recognize code smells. If you like, you can. I've got the URL down here. It's pretty simple. My site is keepcalmandrefactor.com. Code-smells, or you can get the little QR code and get to it. So that's free, and you can learn a little bit more about how to recognize a couple of different code smells and how to refactor those. Do we have any questions, comments, or suggestions?
Yeah, and you look at some of the like, sports players, you know, a lot of these sports leagues, they practice a lot. And that's part of their job. They're paid to do that. You know, I mean, you look at spring training for baseball players. You look at, you know, the lead up to the off season for basketball players. You look at, you know, football players. They only play one game a week, and they practice at least 5 other days a week, probably.
Well, look at, I think it's Emmitt Smith. He was one of the most amazing players in history. He would start working out, and these young Turks who are joining the team would figure they'd go work out with the old guy, Emmett. And after about an hour, they'd be throwing up. They're so exhausted. And he would go at it for another 2 hours. He was known for his
Perseverances,
his
discipline,
his ability to continue playing through the whole game.
Stamina.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, because he made sure that he would get out there and practice and work out for 4 hours straight, because that's how long a game goes. And he wants to be fresh in the fourth quarter while these other guys are all worn out.
Yeah.
And when he was drafted, he was no big shakes, but he was good at running a pattern, and he was good. He was reasonably strong, but he was kind of small. So he knew he wasn't going to be the fastest runner, but he was bound and determined to be the most precise runner. And if the quarterback is going to throw the ball to a location, he was going to be there, and the quarterback could depend on him. And he was there. And he was strong. So if people tried to tackle him, he could just carry him down the field. And he had stamina. So he built on his strengths and didn't worry about his weaknesses. But he never stopped practicing. He wanted to be the greatest football player of all time. And if he didn't get there, he came darn near close. And so, yeah, if you want to be the greatest programmer of all time, you're going to have to.
But I also mean, like, you know, they work in the off season, you know, they're
Yes.
like, in terms of like practicing. And, you know, it's not the performance that we see, you know, the 4 hours a week, you know, that's, you know, if we're able to take that, you know, approach as software developers and spend a lot more time practicing on the job, you know, how much better software developers would we be? You know, I mean,
Right.
are we taking the right approach to the job? You know, I guess is what I'm asking, you know, I mean, like with fighter pilots, you know, with airline pilots, they get, you know, even they go through an extensive amount of training before they even set foot in a real cockpit. And you know, and even then, you know, they go to Top Gun school and stuff like this, you know, before they ever even start working on something. And with software developers, okay, maybe you're lucky enough to get a little bit of bench time, but there's no, okay, here, we want you to walk through these steps, walk through these tools. It's like, what? You expect me to pay for training for you? You know, it's.
You know, I got my haircut recently, and I saw that my hairstylist has this little packet of scissors. She had like 30 scissors, different kinds of scissors in there for different kinds of hair. She has to use a chainsaw for me, but she said that I asked her, so, you know, does your employer provide those scissors? Oh, no, I have to buy my own, and we have to get them sharpened every couple of months. And yeah, they're these people who come by and they sell scissors, and they're the cheap ones. They're only like $300. And
Only $300?
only $300 for a pair of scissors, for a cheap pair of scissors that's going to wear out really quick. She gets the nice ones that are over $500.
Oh,
She had 13 of them in her. She gets paid $15 to cut my hair. Okay, I get paid a whole lot more than that. I can afford my my JetBrains license. Thank you very much. Okay, you know, if the company's not going to step up, I can afford the licenses for the softwares and the tools that I use. I can afford to go to a conference now.
Yeah.
if The company's not.
But I
gonna-
mean, you also asked, I mean, like with employers, you know, the value that software developers can deliver.
Yes,
You know, I mean, and how much return, how much investment are they putting into that
absolutely.
versus the output that they can provide? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's.
I agree that the employers need to take care of the people that they have to. But also, we need to, as Bruno's gonna be talking about in a few weeks, we need to take charge of our careers.
Right,
And make sure that if the employer doesn't provide for me, I provide for me.
Yeah.
I make sure that I've got the training that I need. I make sure that I'm keeping up to date on the latest technologies, because otherwise my career is gonna pass me by and it's gonna be useful anymore. So, and then I'll be more valuable to other employers. There's a quote I heard where someone was saying, you know, what if we train all of our people and they leave? It's like, yeah, well, what if we don't and they stay?
yeah,
That's the problem.
right, yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, I agree that, that employers should step up and provide some training.
I mean, by the money, by the time, you know.
yeah,
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 that's true. But, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
yeah, and then, you know, you politely ask and be persistent and squeaky wheel gets the grease and all that, you know?
Absolutely.
So advocate for yourself is, yeah, advocate for yourself is critical.
Amen, amen. That is true.
And yeah, find the power tools.
Right, right. Yeah, you know, I've got, the IntelliJ license because I can't bank on winning another free license at the job I usually.
Yeah, not just find them, but find them and learn them.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm learning the shortcuts, so I know how to maximize my use of this tool. I have, you know, that WinMerge is a free diff tool. I needed to be able to do diffing on images, so I went and purchased a copy of Beyond Compare so that I could compare images. Then they have the support of WinMerge, so that's okay. I'm not there. But, you know, I've even got a text editor that I use for doing editing binary files, because it's just easier to do it. It makes it easier to do that. And I'm sure that there are free and open source tools that will do that sort of thing, but this one I've been using for a number of years. It works really well, and I'm familiar with it. So I buy the tools that I know I need to get my work done. I buy my own computer at home, you know, so I can practice doing stuff. And so do what I gotta do.
Yeah.
That's, and this is how we exercise.
Yep. Cool. Thank you, Scott. This has been great.
Thank you.
Any thoughts, any questions online? Anybody? Oh,
Thank you, that was good.
awesome. Thanks, Dan.
I'm surprised you didn't bring in Michael Feather's book, though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I could only cram so many books in my bag, and I wanted to focus on the main ones. But yes, yeah, Michael Feather's Refactoring Legacy Code is
It's a good one.
is essential as you're learning refactoring.
Yep.
So, yeah. Thank you for the suggestion.
And
You're
use
welcome.
refactor.
Yeah, and use Refactor first, yes.
Now, if you could also throw in the link or in somewhere the programmer's brain, that would be awesome.
Programmer's brain, yes,
Yeah, I'll add these in the show notes.
yeah.
The,
Felina Herman, it's a Manning book. And, yeah, I've been really impressed with the books that Manning comes out with.
nice, good.
And she's got, I'll send you a link to a video that she has that kind of gives an overview of what she's talking about.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Cool, and, yeah, I'll try to remember to include these in the YouTube show notes as well. So you'll give me a list.
Okay, I will do that.
Cool. All right, thanks so much, and thank you, everybody. And again, next meeting will be October 7th. October 7th.
So by the way,
Friday.
I don't know who all's in the room, but I'll be shutting down the door prize link in a few minutes.
Okay, thanks. It's just, I think, 5 of us right now, really. So not too many people, but it's okay. All right, so you're gonna get your entries in quick.
Where's the door? Oh, because there was a.
Yes, it's in the chat room, Bob.
Chat?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna go and stop recording. Thanks again, Scott. It's been great.
Pleasure.
Very, very insightful.
Thank you for the